There are moments in history when a single detail, almost invisible at first glance, begins to pull apart an entire official narrative. In the case of Menglong, that detail surfaced quietly, buried within hours that were supposed to remain unexamined. It was small, precise, and devastating, and it threatened to expose a fracture far deeper than anyone imagined. This was no longer the story of an individual actor. It had become the story of a system shaken by its own contradictions, and a public that refused to remain silent. More than 2 months have passed since the night Menglong was taken from the world. Yet his name has not faded. Instead, it has traveled farther and wider, carried by a global petition that has now surpassed 670,000 signatures. Each signature came from someone unwilling to accept ambiguity, someone unwilling to allow a life to be erased without clarity or accountability. Rather than dimming, the demand for truth grew louder, tracing pathways across continents, becoming part of conversations that China's information apparatus never intended to host. Across the country, a series of unusual events emerged like scattered sparks that would not die. They appeared disconnected at first, an unexpected symbol in a national ceremony. A group of ordinary women conducting a forensic investigation with extraordinary discipline. Rumors surrounding a disgraced celebrity that erupted suddenly, as if on cue. Elderly public figures displaying impossible youth. And beneath all these developments, the shadow of Menglong resurfaced again and again, connecting the fragments into a pattern that could no longer be ignored. At the opening ceremony of the National Games in Guangzhou, the stadium lights rose slowly over thousands in attendance. The moment was designed to convey order, grandeur, and unity. Xi Jinping and Peng Liyuan took their seats in the political center of the arena. Every movement, every spotlight, every step had been carefully choreographed. Yet within this tightly controlled spectacle, something unexpected drifted across the floor. A massive golden figure emerged, gliding with an elegance that captured the attention of millions. It looked like a dragon at first, but as it moved, its silhouette revealed a different identity. It was a fish caught in the moment of transformation, a mythical creature known as the Alu. For many viewers, it was simply a beautiful design. For millions online, the symbolism was immediate. The sounds within the name Menglong echoed the imagery of both fish and dragon. A blue fish icon often represented him on social media until even a single fish emoji was aggressively censored. Yet now, on the largest stage the government could offer, the symbol appeared in brilliant gold, circling the arena in full view of the man believed to have enforced the silence. The timing was impossible to dismiss. The meaning was unmistakable. And for the first time, the public asked a question that had long been unspoken. Had absolute control begun to slip? Behind the glamour and the excuses, something deeper was taking shape. What exactly was driving this crisis? What mechanisms of power, narrative, and concealment were at play? To understand the scale of what was unfolding, one would need to follow each thread, tracing it from the earliest missteps to the irreversible consequences, revealing not only how an entertainment icon may have been silenced, but how a system could be rewritten by the collective determination of ordinary citizens. The momentum surrounding Menglong's story no longer belonged to grief alone. It began to transform into something stronger. Doubt turned into inquiry. Inquiry turned into resolve. And resolve turned into a quiet defiance that spread far beyond the platforms the state could easily regulate. Accidental symbolism merged with intentional acts of resistance. Citizen investigators challenged official timelines. People inside China found ways to keep the conversation alive, even when every possible channel was being sealed shut. It became evident that what had begun as a tragedy was now reshaping the relationship between the public and the structures around them. The release of the citizen investigation transformed everything. It was not an emotional plea. It was not speculation. It was a document created with discipline, divided into chapters, complete with maps, timestamps, environmental data, and analysis that rivaled professional forensic work. A group of women, traveling from different regions of China, walked the pathways Menglong had walked. They compared shadows, analyzed rainfall, cross-referenced meteorological records, and examined audio spectrograms. They reconstructed movements that had been obscured by silence. The revelation emerged slowly but unmistakably. Yu Menglong did not die on the date that authorities announced. The sound of moderate rainfall recorded in resident videos matched only one night within the relevant time frame, the night of September 9th. The umbrellas, the reflections on pavement, the police lights, the hurried movements of officers outside. Building 18 of Sunshine Upper East. All aligned with that single night. Their conclusion, the official timeline could not be correct. And if the timeline collapsed, the narrative that depended on it would collapse as well. This possibility sent a chill through the discussion. 48 hours. That was the difference between the publicized date and the date supported by evidence. 2 days. Enough time to reorganize a scene, to reassign responsibilities, to adjust alibis, to remove inconvenient traces. Enough time to alter a narrative before presenting it as fact. But the discrepancy was no longer hidden. Ordinary citizens had uncovered it through their own initiative, bringing clarity that no official department had provided. Their findings did not stop there. Between the Chihao Art Museum and the Bulgari Hotel, they identified the headquarters of Huayi Brothers, a major film company with deep connections to the entertainment industry. Yet on online maps, the building had vanished. Not removed physically, but digitally erased. It stood in plain sight, but not in the virtual record that millions relied upon. The absence raised uncomfortable questions. What else could be erased? What else had been altered? The report spread rapidly despite intense censorship. People shared it quietly, creatively, and persistently. When direct posts were removed, they uploaded screenshots. When screenshots were deleted, they embedded text in images or disguised characters within unrelated content. As pressure grew, something remarkable happened. Citizens began using delivery app note sections to smuggle information. A simple meal order could contain a line urging others to look into the truth of the case, or pointing toward the investigation that had uncovered suspicious financial links and inconsistencies. The notes spread far more quickly than censors could track. In response, authorities removed the note function entirely from delivery apps. Not restricted, removed. And average it revealed the level of concern within the system. In another instance, a resident attempted to print a petition letter regarding Yu Menglong at a local shop. The shopkeeper refused. Police had ordered that nothing containing Yu Menglong's name could be printed. For the resident, the refusal was shocking. Never before had something so simple been declared off-limits. It was an extraordinary sign of how far the control mechanisms were being stretched, and how deeply the case had unsettled those who attempted to contain it. Others took their resistance further. A citizen drove through Beijing with a banner attached to the side of their vehicle, reading, "Justice for Yu Menglong. Hold the perpetrators accountable." It moved through streets lined with surveillance cameras, passing markets and office buildings, asserting a message that could not easily be dismissed. It became an image that circulated widely, symbolizing a growing moral force that censorship could not fully extinguish. But just as the public gained momentum, a familiar tactic resurfaced. Whenever a political crisis threatened to escalate, a distraction would emerge. And for years, that distraction had taken the form of one person, Kris Wu, a former pop star whose downfall had once dominated headlines, now reappeared as the focal point of a new wave of rumors. On November 6th, the eve of his birthday, Chinese social media exploded with claims that Kris Wu had died in prison, weakened by a refusal to eat. Authorities said nothing. Silence invited speculation. Then, as quickly as the rumor had emerged, a second wave claimed the opposite. He was alive. He had been transferred for questioning related to tax evasion totaling 300 million yuan. The contradictions were not an accident. The contradictions were the strategy. History made the pattern clear. On June 10, 2022, the Tangshan assault shocked the nation. That very same day, Kris Wu's first trial opened quietly. The next morning, State media filled headlines with updates about him overshadowing the assault case. Months later, after a deadly fire in Urumqi sparked widespread grief and outrage, Kris Wu's 13-year sentence dominated the news cycle. And following the collapse of a school gym in Chichi in July 2023, his second trial appeared again at the top of state-driven media. 3 national crises. 3 precisely timed reappearances. 3 diversions. And this time, however, the tactic misfired. Instead of diverting attention away from Menglong, the sudden resurfacing of Kris Wu amplified public suspicion. People began connecting the 2 names as symbols of deeper structural issues: imbalance of power, manipulation of narratives, and the vulnerability of public figures within a tightly controlled entertainment ecosystem. The distraction became evidence of deeper anxiety within the system rather than an escape from it. While the swirl of rumors gained intensity, another phenomenon emerged across Chinese social media. Elderly celebrities began appearing in public with a level of youthfulness that defied natural aging. Jet Li, once frail and visibly weakened, appeared in videos with a face far more youthful, and movements filled with childlike energy. Sammo Hung, long dependent on a wheelchair, was filmed walking freely and performing Tai Chi in Xi'an. Na Ying, once described by fans as aging quickly, appeared hiking mountains at 66 with ease. Then came the most startling revelation. Yuan Hong, a cosmetic entrepreneur known for her dramatically altered appearance, released a video in which she claimed to have reversed her biological age from 55 to 30. She attributed the transformation to a procedure involving microvesicles and youth-associated functional proteins extracted from the circulation of males aged 16 to 21. According to her account, a single treatment required biological material from a vast number of young individuals, far more than most people could imagine. The cost was 20 million yuan per month. The frequency was monthly. The implications alarmed the public. It suggested a commercialized, industrial-scale process that blurred the boundaries between technology, biology, and ethics. It suggested a demand for young bodies that aligned disturbingly with another emerging trend: a significant rise in disappearances across China. Reports began circulating of missing persons in multiple regions, including children as young as 5 years old. In the first 22 days of October alone, more than 107 publicly reported disappearances appeared online. China possesses more than 700 million surveillance cameras. Yet the missing were almost never found. The contradiction spoke for itself. When the human body becomes a resource within a production chain, when profit supersedes ethics, and when technology is separated from morality, systems begin to perform actions that should never be performed. The case of Menglong did not fade. It revealed. It revealed fractures within the entertainment industry, fractures within political structures, fractures within the moral foundations of a system that attempted to maintain an image of stability. Each revelation forced a new question, a new comparison, a new pattern. The more citizens uncovered, the more the system tightened. The more the system tightened, the more citizens resisted quietly. A shift occurred, subtle but unmistakable. Fear changed sides. The aftermath of these revelations extended far beyond the entertainment world. The story of Menglong began to reshape the public's understanding of truth, narrative, and collective responsibility. It raised questions that could not be dismissed. What happens when an official timeline collapses? What happens when a national symbol created to enforce unity inadvertently exposes weakness? And what happens when ordinary people find themselves compelled to uncover truths that institutions refuse to acknowledge? The power of Menglong's story lay not only in what happened to him, but in what his absence revealed. It demonstrated that a single life, examined honestly, could illuminate the hidden mechanisms of an entire system. And it demonstrated that truth does not require force to spread. It requires persistence. It requires courage. It requires the quiet determination of individuals who refuse to look away. The months that followed did not bring closure but clarity. The citizen investigation continued to circulate despite all attempts to suppress it. The inconsistencies within the entertainment industry sparked difficult conversations. and the rising number of disappearances fueled a public fear that could not be dismissed with slogans or diversions. Most importantly, the story revealed that the public was no longer willing to accept explanations built on silence. They had found ways to communicate even under extreme surveillance. They had discovered that the system's strength was not as absolute as it once appeared. And in this realization, a new equilibrium began to emerge. The legacy of Menglong became a meditation on the fragility of image and the resilience of truth. His name transformed into a quiet symbol of moral insistence, a reminder that even in environments shaped by control, there exists a human impulse toward clarity. It is an impulse that cannot easily be extinguished. As this chapter closes, one truth remains in the air, suspended between uncertainty and hope. The public is no longer afraid. The system is.